Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this latest episode of Now That's Significant, a market research podcast. This is your host Michael Howard, the Head of Marketing at InfoTools. Today we're joined by Naomi Grewel, who was recently at Workday, where she spent nearly 3 years building and developing the UX research organization. This month, she'll be joining LinkedIn as Director of UX Research. Her prior experience includes leading research teams at Meta, Facebook, Uber, and Pinterest. And she also has worked at research companies like SurveyMonkey and Ipsos. Naomi holds a PhD in cognitive psychology from Claremont Graduate University and a BA in psychology from Columbia. She also serves on the psychology faculty at the University of Southern California and teaches in their Masters of Science in Applied Psychology program. Thanks for joining us on the show today, Naomi.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. So, Naomi, can you start by telling us a little bit about your career journey? It's quite varied, as we've seen, and interesting at that too.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I did a PhD in cognitive psychology. I studied psychology from my undergrad and started working in research labs, decided to go on and do a PhD. I started actually working on the vendor side of market research during my PhD and kind of continued doing that at Ipsos right after my PhD. I started working specifically on neuroscience methodologies, which was related to what I had done my dissertation on, and really bringing that into the market research field. And through a few different job moves, I eventually took on more leadership responsibility and had opportunities to move to San Francisco and was really curious about the tech industry. And eventually got my first role at Facebook, where I led North America Consumer Insights for about a year and a half. I then got an opportunity to take on a global head of insights role at Pinterest, leading insights for their advertising business. I then moved over to Uber, where I led a people research team. So now, instead of focusing on studying consumers and the market, instead studying employees of Uber and really try ways to improve the employee experience, the culture of Uber as a company during a really fascinating time around their IPO. I then returned to Meta, or Facebook at the time. It changed into Meta. This was around the pandemic. I led about 5 different UXR teams, so user experience research teams within the Facebook app, within the community's product group. So we launched 0 to 1 products and did research on those products, things like Facebook dating, something called Campus and Neighborhoods. And then I spent, as you said, the last 3 years basically at Workday as the director of UX research there, leading a team of about 40 researchers overall, and of course, managers and other research leaders. And have just left that job at Workday about a week and a half ago, and I'm about to embark on this new journey at LinkedIn, leading a good portion of their UX research organization.
Sounds fascinating, and by the time this episode airs as well, you would have started. So, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned from your insights positions at leading tech companies?
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, so much about research, we think about research skill and the craft of research itself and being really excellent at executing research. And I actually think in tech, it's very much table stakes that someone is excellent at research. Oftentimes, these large technology companies don't even bring people in without graduate degrees or having even faculty positions. And so the research skill is almost assumed to be great. What actually sets researchers apart in tech is really the extra stuff. So it's the intangible kind of cross-functional collaboration. It's the communication skills. It's how the research is positioned within a company. And so for me, it's been a little bit of a journey over the last 10 to 15 years of really like unlearning some of the academic best practices and learning how to integrate research within an organization and a company, and finding the best opportunities to do that, and trying to bring a whole team of people along in that journey.
And has it also challenged your thinking from a academic perspective as well on so going both ways?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I get to learn from some of the top people. I mean, working at a company like Meta, for example, I think is like working among the best social scientists that exist in the world. I mean, you have, people that gave up faculty positions. So you are pushed in every way, and it's quite humbling to be in a position leading some of those individuals that often have much stronger technical skills than you. And so it is a very much a give and take kind of opportunity. And, working at the top companies really does push you. You kind of come along with everyone, you learn from one another. I think if you have the right mindset, it really raises you up. And that's what I've really loved about my journey, is just feeling like I'm getting better at what I'm doing. And these opportunities have, largely come my way through LinkedIn. Most of my career moves have been a function of, recruiters reaching out to me and it just feeling like the right thing at the right time.
Great. And now you're going to be working at LinkedIn to see how you can enable that for others as well.
It's a very full circle moment for me. I wanted to work at LinkedIn for a long time. My last few jobs have focused on how people work. It's something I'm really passionate about. It's why I went into people research and why I worked at Workday. And now this feels like a very full circle career moment where I get to work on the product itself and doing research on that product that's really been, pivotal in my own success.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how has your background then in cognitive psychology influenced your approach to insights in research?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, a standard you bring from academia in terms of just the quality of research. So personally, I think I had a very heavy training in statistics and research methods. And that is something that, I use every day in terms of evaluating my direct reports or their individual contributors' sort of study quality. And so I can sort of point out things that maybe need to be improved in terms of our research quality. But more than that, I think it's really just given me a lens to help understand consumer or user motivations and behaviors and really understand how important that is across a business. And that's the biggest learning I take away from my cognitive psychology background. It's just deeply understanding people and then being able to apply that again within a business context and making sure that that application is really actionable and yields some, business impact.
Hmm. No, true. So let's talk a bit more about cognitive psychology while we're here. You teach in the Masters of Science at Applied Psychology at USC. How about how to apply, sorry, key psychology principles in the workforce in various industries? Can you dig into this a little more, please?
Yeah, so I teach in what's called the MAP program, Masters of Science and Applied Psychology program at USC. And it's a really unique program because I think it's the only Masters of Science in Applied Psychology. There are plenty of other kind of like adjacent degrees out there, human computer interaction or, more UX or even market research specific degrees. But this one, what's really fascinating is you kind of learn the fundamentals of cognitive, social, all aspects of psychology, and then how to apply it in the workforce. So we're really preparing master's students for not just market research careers, but more broadly UX careers or even organizational psychology careers. So they can sort of get that basic understanding across all areas of applied psychology and then specialize later on. So I have people often that come in with, degrees, bachelor's degrees in some form of social science, or, many years of work experience, and they want to get a master's degree in something related to humans. And this is kind of where they turn to. So it's extremely rewarding. I've been teaching for a couple of years now, and I teach just one course that's basically a foundations course. So every week we cover kind of a different topic within applied psychology. So one week is consumer neuroscience, for example, and the next week is UX research. And they just get kind of little snacks of information, and then they can go on throughout the course and dive deeper into those topics in more specialized classes later on. And it's been fantastic. Great way to kind of build that next generation of leaders in this field.
True. How then do you see the role of applied psychology evolving in the fields of market research, right? Insights and UX research at that as well?
Yeah. So I think, primarily what's important is that we not just understand like what consumers or users do, but why they do it. And that's really where I see the evolution going. So it's really getting to the heart of the behaviors and why people are doing what they're doing. So that's, broadly what I see. I do think there's going to be more integration of psychological theories in both market research and UX research. I think we're seeing a whole new sort of realm of methodologies with AI evolving. I'm hearing about all these new startups and how to really automate some of the methods that we maybe once considered our kind of bread and butter, like interviewing, for example. So I think the role is definitely going to evolve. It's always going to have a human element to it, but what researchers actually do may change over time. And if anything, I think the ability to really understand that why behind human behavior, to critically evaluate different methods and, the validity, the reliability of them, and then the applicability of them, and then to really distill insights that matter to a business. So it comes back to that business acumen, that communication piece. Those are going to be the things that become really important as we, move forward with more of these technological advancements.
Mm. So when you started off in your career, I'm making an assumption here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the different methodologies of research would have been quite separate. But now there's a bigger movement to join them up and to ensure that they're interrelated. What are some ways that organizations can integrate psychology, applied psychology, etc., into these programs to ensure that they're filling all of the gaps when you mesh them all together?
Yeah, so I almost want to challenge that assumption because I feel like I've been talking about mixed methods forever. And if anything, I think everyone says they're a mixed methods expert. And I actually think the challenge now lies in really we have to meet the demands of the business and the speed at which we have to deliver insights. And so it's really about what my prior boss would say, sufficient rigor is a term I will quote from Tammy Snow at Workday. But so it's about kind of figuring out what is absolutely necessary to do and like where that line between, this is worth that extra time and that extra cost. So it's not, I think in the past, there's been more, oh, I want to just do more methods for the sake of innovation. And now the standard is very much like we need to build a product within a short period of time. How do we get enough information to guide decision making and feel really confident in what we're putting out there? And that doesn't necessarily mean more methods. It means being really, really careful about the methods you do pick. And again, having that like really critical eye to be able to say like, yes, we feel confident in this decision and moving forward, we're going to go in that direction. Of course, there will be more methods that make insight generation faster. And that's where I think some of the AI tools could come in. So there might be less time spent on the more, mundane tasks of research, like collecting the data, let's say. And then there might be more time for generating the actual insights or focusing more on delivering of those insights in a way that really moves the needle and helps, create that impact within an organization.
Yeah, that's a one good takeaway, I guess, you've had from workforce for a workday amongst many other things. So thanks for sharing.
Of course, yeah.
Um, So, big R. This has been bandied around a little bit. Can you tell us what this is and how you see this concept transforming the landscape of research and insights?
Yeah, I certainly don't think you can credit me with coming up with Big R, but it is something I've been talking about for a while. And for me personally, it actually came to me from Big D for design. So it's kind of the concept of like a design organization might include multiple functions. And I really see research evolving in the same way. So I'm one of the few people that I'm aware of who has led research across pretty much all sides of a technology company. So from reporting into marketing, sales, HR, and now product. And so pretty much every function that can be influenced by research, I've led that team within a big tech company to do that work. And so I really see research as, a strategic function where the skill is the same. The researcher skill, qual, quant, whatever mixed methods, the skill can be applied in different ways. And again, it's about learning about the stakeholders or the partners that you need to influence within a company and what their objectives are, and then aligning your research plans to that and your communication style and all of that. So for me, Big R is very much about positioning research as a strategic function within a company that might include market research, people research, the consumer insight side of things, the org side of things, and the product or UX research side of things. To me, there could be a centralized kind of research function that has that leader that understands how research should be positioned across all sides of a company.
Mm. Are there some ways that you've tried to position Big R in the past that haven't worked so people could avoid that route, and then some ways that have worked to help really promote research in an organization?
I mean, I have almost never seen Big R as a centralized research organization done. So there are lots of different models by which research exists within tech companies, and typically they are function specific. And so there might be a head of research within the product organization and a separate one within the marketing side of the organization, and a separate one within HR, for example. I think what's again unique about my background is the thread across all of them. And I'm just suggesting here that that could be a way to position research with really having that, um, seat at a table. I hate that term, but like, having that more strategic perspective and, potentially being able to influence decisions at the highest level. I know there are a few companies that have successfully done that. I haven't seen that at the companies I've been at, but for me, being able to sort of teach people across each of these functions at USC, that's sort of how I think of the ability of a newcomer to the field to be able to possibly work across different research functions. And so I've started coaching people on, you don't necessarily just have to stay in market research. You can go for these other roles and really consider, where are signals from the market taking you? Where are the most jobs? If you want to stay in tech, most of the money is related to building the products. And so there are typically more roles within UXR and fewer roles within positioning, marketing of the brand or the product. And so for me personally, that's where I've taken my career, but that's been very much, a seeing of what roles exist, the signals I'm getting, and then taking that into account and making choices.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Um, your roles have evolved to focus more on studying and optimizing the user experience. What are some of the emerging UX trends that you're currently seeing in the market then? And what techniques are you using to uncover these insights?
Yeah, so I mean, I can't leave without talking more about AI. I think there's, such a huge trend. We're seeing it both in the products we're building, like AI related features within all these tech companies, and then also within the research industry itself. And so, leveraging AI to really improve user interactions to really streamline user experiences is definitely a huge growing trend within the field of tools related to work. It tends to be about automation. So how do we take away some of the drudgery that exists of, the tasks we don't like doing and make our jobs easier? So we're definitely seeing that. We saw that within a lot of Workday, and I imagine that LinkedIn will have, many similar things. We're also seeing a lot related to personalization. I'm seeing this across pretty much all the tech apps. So really, tailored experiences for the user based on their specific needs, really making personalization that key focus area. And then maybe I'd also mention, specific to research techniques, that concept of using kind of mixed methods, again, more and more AI specific tools to be able to integrate data sources together. So more and more people are trying to come and say, let's take away some of those areas of research that we don't want to spend as much time on, and how can we bring more tools together and give you more holistic insights. So those are some of the things I'm starting to see.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like, obviously, I think AI is incredible and it is going to unlock so much potential just in our daily lives and business, etc. But I also like just stepping back and thinking of it more being tech enabled, because there's more to technology and the tools available to us, and in the future as well, that isn't what you'd deem artificial intelligence. It's just good software programming, etc.
Well,
as
and
well.
AI has been around for quite a long time. It just wasn't really talked about, but these models have existed, and people have been working on them for 10 plus years.
Yeah, and there used to be 4 types of AI as well. There's descriptive, prescriptive. Yes, I can't remember the others, but there used to be that, and then all of a sudden, generative AI popped up as
Gen
well. And
AI. Now conversational AI, and
yeah,
yeah. It's pretty fun getting to witness all these things and to get to work on some of the technology.
it's true. So if we zoom out a little bit, you've mentioned you've managed teams at some of the largest tech companies around. What are some of the challenges you face when leading a diverse team of researchers, research leaders, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, such a broad question, but I'll give you a broad answer, which is probably true of most leaders. But I think it comes down to, one of the biggest challenges being balancing that, like the diverse needs of a really varied team of individuals, while also aligning them to the organizational goals. And we've seen this, in tech with layoffs and all kinds of things happening in the last few years. But so much change. Tech moves extremely quickly. And as a leader, you really have to bring an organization through all those changes and still ensure that they're delivering against their goals, while again meeting their needs as a team and balancing the needs of the organization. And I think oftentimes there's so much tension between those two things, and we as leaders have to navigate those really often difficult conversations with people. But personally, I think if we always focus on the individual employee, we often can find really nice compromises. But it's a constant challenge, and something I'm always navigating.
I guess you've also then got the challenges of managing external relationships and agencies and suppliers, etc. as well, and how that all fits into the model too.
Yeah, it's interesting. In UX research, we don't use nearly as much external support. So the internal teams themselves are quite a bit bigger. So there's more funding for headcount relative to my experience in market research at Facebook before. There was much more budget for external vendors and research. We still do some of that in UXR, but it's much more internal focused. So yeah, it's, each role has been really different, but I would say that that common thing is always, how do you balance the needs of that the individuals on the team and ensuring they get what they need to succeed, and also making sure that the organization is getting what they need. And it's something every leader faces.
Yes. So I'd love also finally to get your perspective on how you envision the future of insights research, how it's evolving, especially with the advancements of technology and I guess big data, which is around.
Yeah. I mean, spoken to this a little bit, but AI and big data are transforming how we're conducting research, how we're building user experiences for products and tech. They are enabling more predictive and prescriptive insights. Despite that, I still think the future of research will continue to focus on understanding, again, the why and kind of the human element. I do think there's going to be a big, I should really say, continued push toward ensuring ethical data use as we get more sources of data, as these AI models, become more prominent, ensuring that the data that goes in them is something we can actually use and rely on, and again, make good judgments off of. That's where I really see us focused, going forward.
Yes, it's an exciting time to be in the industry, and I do also really like going to conferences and just hearing about different ways people have practically applied research insights and psychology, etc. as well, because you get to see that rubber on the road, which you don't often get to. So I guess the more of these we can see in the wild per se, the more encouraging that it is for the rest of us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So any final thoughts on what we've talked about today before we close, Naomi?
Just I'd love, if anyone has questions or comments, would love to engage over LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out. And I always love growing my network and keeping in touch as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too, and all the best with your new role that you're starting shortly.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you.
Cheers. And thank you also to everyone else who's listened in today. If you have liked what you've heard, feel free to reach out to Naomi on LinkedIn. She'll be close there. Also, if you have enjoyed what you've listened to as well, feel free to share this with someone else that you may feel they'll be inspired by. Subscribe to the podcast and leave a review as well if you have the time. We would be very grateful. With that, thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.